We are going to once and for all do a power ranking. We've done an announcer draft, Ben. We have done announcer rankings, top to bottom, of everybody that calls games in the whole NFL. But we're going to do the top booths at all the networks 1 through 5 that actually have consistent NFL packages. So if you're wondering where we got to 5, that's Fox, NBC, and CBS, of course, but then also ESPN and Amazon on Thursday Night Football. And they did have the one playoff game this year. So Fox will have Commanders Eagles on Sunday. CBS, of course, will have Chiefs Bills, but we're going to do them all. So you just give me yours 5-1, and then I'll give you mine. We don't have to go back and forth because I would imagine we're going to be pretty similar. So go from bottom to top for me, and then I'll react.
So my bottom would be Brady Burkhart. I don't think that's the best booth that Fox could be putting forward. And I think Burkhart is probably on the lower end of play-by-play guys on this list. And Tom Brady's still a work in progress. For number 4, I would go with Tirico Collinsworth, actually. Maybe we'll differ there. I just find that booth I find that booth a little bland. I find that presentation overall for Sunday Night Football unappealing. I think for the most watched game every week, like they do not present that in a manner that screams number one broadcast each week on television. Number 3, I'm going to say Herbstreit Michaels. And I debated this one between 3 and 4, flipping them, but I do think this booth at least has some personality. I think Al Michaels to a degree has been reinvigorated these last couple of years. I actually think Herbstreit's pretty good as an NFL broadcaster, and I had pretty low expectations for how he would transition there. Number 2, I would go Nance Romo. I just think I like a lot of people have strong Tony Romo takes. I don't love him. I don't hate him, but it feels like a big game when those two are in the booth. And so, especially as many Chiefs games as they've called these last 6 or 7 years. So they have some built up equity. And then one, I think we agree here is Buck Aikman. I just think I think they are firmly established as the top booth. I actually think the overall Monday Night Football presentation screams big deal, and it feels like a really big deal when your team plays on Monday Night Football, not just because it's the standalone game, but because of all the resources that ESPN pours into it. So,
which is crazy, right? Because how many years were we just complaining and pulling our hair out about the games weren't very good, and ESPN and the NFL, is there some sort of rocky relationship and they're giving them the crappy matchups, and then who's even calling the games, and everybody has a problem with every booth that they tried and everything else. It's like that investment on those two guys, I think, speaks to it. And what's funny is, I don't know if you read this piece from Richard Deitch at The Athletic, but he talked to Buck about Aikman after Aikman got so much praise for going after the refs and the NFL rules and everything with the Mahomes whatever you want to call it, shenanigans over the weekend. And Buck said he went specifically to, I appreciate that ESPN invested the money in us that they did. He's basically saying yeah, you paid us, and so we're meeting the moment. And it's like, all right, well, if that's what it took, that's what it took. But yeah, they're my number 1 as well. I guess we can get there. My number 5, I'm going to put Michaels and Herbstreit. I feel like that's disrespectful to Al Michaels, but I don't think he's quite at his NBC or ABC primes like he was. 4, I will go with Burkhart and Brady. That could change. I'm ready for Tom to change everything about how I feel about him. But for right now, that's where he is. You and I are both not quite Burkhart guys the way that I think others are. Number 3, I'm going to go Nance and Romo. And that means that number 2 is going to be Collinsworth and Tirico, which is where I think we should maybe check in here, because I don't know what, the past 2 weeks watching all these games, I have just gotten super into this duo. I don't know. I read the Brian Curtis profile of Mike Tirico on The Ringer. Maybe that's making me feel sappy about it, but I just think that the 2 top for me, being Buck and Aikman and Tirico and Collinsworth, it is 100% about chemistry. And I think that the comfort level of the game analysts, I think these 2 booths are the most experienced. They've been together. How long NBC versus CBS? Probably about the same, right? Collinsworth, Tirico, and then Nance and Romo. I would say probably about the same.
It's probably a year difference, if that.
So maybe not the most years together, but Collinsworth obviously much more experienced overall than Romo. And I don't know, maybe I'm just you know, too too reliant on just kind of the feel good of some of that. Like I just like how I feel like I'm in good hands. I don't know if I'm going to sit here and tell you Collinsworth like blows my mind every week with what he's saying, but they just play off of each other so well and they take me into what matters about each game, and like that's kind of what I want at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's that's fair. I think that to me it was kind of Buck Aikman one, and then you could kind of sell me on any order. Like even if you wanted to put Brady Burkhardt two, like I wouldn't agree with that, and I don't think they're the best technical booth. But like, look, I mean, Tom Brady's called Cardinals games this season, right? You're a Cardinals fan, and like you're kind of pumped when Tom Brady's calling your team's game. Like you kind of like want to see what it's like. And so I think that counts for something, at least in terms of like what we're looking for out of these broadcasts. So yeah,
It's in a really good spot too, right? I mean, like we had, think about like 7 years ago or something, you could go back and we had, Phil Simms in a top booth. We had whatever was going on at Monday Night Football. We had, NFL Network doing Thursday nights. Like it's, it's awesome. I mean, I don't
yeah.
feel bummed any day of the week, any night of the week, any playoff game. And you could even go a step further and talk about the number twos, which is not the point here. And like it's just solid top to bottom, and everybody has their favorites. But man,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I think the highest approval goes to Olsen and Joe Davis, the number two team at Fox, and so I would actually probably still have them behind Buck and Aikman, but that's an aside. But I like, yeah, it's just in a great spot. It's like it's hard. Like Greg Olsen should be on a top team, but there's no spot for him. Like
where?
right? Like, and so like last year we're talking about Jason Kelsey coming in. It's like, all right, well, if he's going to be a game analyst, it's going to have to be a 3-man booth somewhere because all of these spots are already spoken for. It's just like, and all of these guys except for Collinsworth are pretty young. So unless Brady steps aside and Collinsworth just re-up, like none of these spots are coming open anytime soon, you would think.
Yeah, you're hoping for international games, week 18, whatever it might be. But
Yeah.
or if I'm Greg Olson, maybe I'm just hoping that the college football playoff keeps expanding and Herb Street just gets too busy. That might be the only other light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, it's in a great spot for sure.